Welcome back to the unnamed project. Today, I'm getting ready to chase that dial. No, I'm kidding, guys. So as you can imagine, today we're going to be doing some of the Driveline stuff, right? So if you guys have just been tuning in for the first time here, I'll go ahead and put a little link in the corner up here. We're taking this 65 four-door Ford here and just slamming in a 3.8, a modern 3.8 out of a Thunderbird, I believe, with a 5-speed back into here, right? So that engine was EFI'd, and then we basically completely converted it. Pretty interesting little process back to carburetors. So go ahead and watch that. For the rest of you people that are here, we're gonna keep cracking on with this thing. So what we have to do today is we have to finish sorting out the shifter in the trans tunnel and all that stuff. Shouldn't be too long on that one, but pretty sure I just jinxed it right now. Yeah, whatever. Then afterwards, I want to get that drive shaft sorted out. So pretty interesting little process there. I got my own little way of doing it. And you know what? You guys might learn something out of it. So I really hope it's for you guys. Man, where was I here? I need a checklist. I need a checklist. Checklist? Checklist. Okay, yeah, so we went ahead just off camera here and drilled a hole in the floor. Actually, it's not up. Sorry about that, guys. A lot of noise up there. So we went ahead off camera and drilled a hole in the floor here for the shifter. To be quite honest, it wasn't off camera. I just, for some reason, it dumped crypto and I got no camera, so no footage of it. So not a big deal. But yeah, the shifter is through the floor, not in the right place, obviously. So I'm gonna be making just a quick little rod here and then just having my shifter on the end of it and they'll be good to go. While I'm at it, I'm going to start installing the clutch pedal in here. So basically, I'm just going to have to reposition everything. Well, not really everything, but just kind of reposition the fuse block just to move it over a little bit. Pump this through the hole, through the firewall, and then we'll start hooking up the slave and everything to try to get the oil pumping down there. I don't have the clutch slave yet, but that one's definitely coming. But between you and I and literally everybody else, I got enough work to keep me busy.
tape one. Just kidding.
Can you see it? Yes, no?
Scoot your back a little this way. Yeah, right there.
Oh, time to move on to the splendipitous, shaftiest draft shaft. Oh, the drive shaft. So if you remember, initially my plan was to put the transmission to basically far enough that I didn't have to modify the drive shaft. Well, because of the oil pan and all that good stuff there, life didn't work out that way. So I'm gonna go ahead and shorten the drive shaft. I got an easy, I wouldn't say racing application of doing it, but I mean, it'll work. And if there's no vibration, well, keep going. Oops, my apologies, just keep going. So you have to measure to find out exactly the length you need, right? So I went ahead and put the drive shaft that I'm gonna use in there, and the yoke is in the same position on both axes. So I hope you understand what I mean here. I'm saying this because you can measure from the yoke that's on the drive shaft or the yoke that's on a correction. The end cap, there we go, it sounds better. The end cap that's on the drive shaft or the end cap that's on the slip yoke. There we go. So I rather go from the slip yoke because then I know for sure what the actual distance is gonna be. And then you measure from there from center of this cap to the face. You know, videos are good because then you can show people stuff, they say. I am now in the rear of the vehicle. So yeah, we have the rear end yoke here. So basically, like I said, from the center of the shaft on the other side, correction, the center of the cap on the other side, to the face right there. So what that's gonna tell me is the length of drive shaft, which I have to end up with. A couple things to take in consideration here. So some vehicles, this distance shortens when the suspension collapses. So you have to take that into consideration, because if you have it at the perfect length and then you have a vehicle that when it crushes the suspension, it shortens the distance, you're gonna blow something out in the front there, or you're gonna blow something out back here. You gotta watch out, right? In this particular case, when the suspension goes down, the whole axle goes backwards. So I'll actually pull the drive shaft out. So I went ahead and put it pretty snug in the front where the transmission is because I want as much support as I can. And man, I talk too much. Let's do this. Okay, so now we got our distance, we got the length of the drive shaft that we need. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna remove the back part of the yoke here. So we're gonna look, well, first of all, we'll get the measurement of where this drive shaft's gonna have to end, so I'll know where to do my next cut. So I'll go and do that now. My pen seems to have disappeared. Give me a sec. Okay, so we got our mark here. What I'm gonna do next here is cut out the back end of the yoke. So there's a weld here, right? Like a big seam you can see. Every drive shaft has it, unless you're very, very rich. So I don't recommend using a zip cut for this one because you end up going too far into it, right? So I just use basically like a grinding stone and then go more towards the front half of the weld here. And you go in, you'll see a separation or a color change or something. Something will tell you you've gone far enough. But if you're gone halfway through the tube, you've gone too far, right? So this drive shaft probably 90 thou wall, maybe even thinner. So yeah, we'll just go slow with this one and see what happens. So if you've never seen the end of a yoke before, that's how it looks. You can see I went just a smidgen far, but it'll be okay. It'll fill up with weld, right? So this part here is, sometimes it's tapered or the inside of the tube is tapered, and then it's just kind of hammered in, lined up straight, re-welded, and then good to go. So I got a little trick when it comes time to straighten this part. We're obviously going to weld on it. The scary part is to try to get the drive shaft straight again, but I got a little trick when we come to that, right? So next part here we're going to do, we have to cut the drive shaft to length. So if I can find my line here. Aha, there it is. This is the total length that I need, right? Total length to the center of the cap. You have to keep that in mind. So just going to eyeball it here. Whoops. There we go. Bam. So now I know where I have to cut the pipe. What I'm going to do here is just measure on top of it just to be safe, right? So yeah, perfect. So we have the correct offset. We're going to go ahead and go cut the pipe on my line here, and then we're going to start resetting this thing up. We went ahead and banged our yoke back in there. Obviously we cleaned the rust around the edges where the weld's going to happen. This next step here might sound a little weird, but clean yourself a little edge here. Take a piece of emery cloth, somewhere you haven't hit it with the grinder and somewhere there's no counterweight. So you just want to take the rust off, and then that's going to be our reference for when we straighten it up afterwards. You're going to understand in a minute. Just bear with me. There we go. So you don't want to bring it right back to shiny metal. We just want to take like the rust and all the kind of mud that's been accumulating for a couple of years. So now we're going to go ahead and put this back into the car. Well, that's definitely not what you want. All right, so when you like changing U-joints like I do, go ahead and drop one of the caps and then pick up all the needles off the floor and try to cram them back in. Good time. Phew. All right, so once you're at this point, just give it a little spin. It'll kind of start sorting itself out. Oh yeah, I could totally see where. All right, cool. Yeah, so I can see already we got quite a bit of wobble onto it. Not the end of the world. You'll see why I reinstalled it in the car in just a second. Okay, so if you guys remember here, we cleaned up that little area on the drive shaft. This is what it's for. So we have a mag dial set up here, right? This is just the easiest way really without having the big fancy equipment. So like there is such thing as drive shaft benches, for example, humongous lathes, all that stuff. But I mean, really, Even the shops around here, they don't even balance anything. All they do is they make sure the drive shaft is straight per se. So we're using the actual axle as a center and then the transmission as a center. And then I have my dial gauge up here. So when you want, when you're trying to do this, make sure you don't actually grab the drive shaft or the yoke because they have play in them, right? What you want to do, I'm grabbing the wheel right now. See, it's just to turn the wheel because the wheel is going to apply the power through the differential back into the drive shaft. And then we're going to play the game of tappy spoony, and then we're going to try to get it as straight as possible before we put our first tack. Now remember, when we put the tack, we got to do it again because it's going to move. So I'll set up the old GoPro over here so you can have a good little visual of the gauge, and we'll start spinning this thing. Okay, so this seems to be the highest spot. Going high again. And highest is right there. We'll go on the low actually and hit upwards. I think it'll be a lot easier. Okay, that's the low. Try not to destroy my gear here, I guess. All right. So we're going up. And that's the lowest right there. Going up. And that's the lowest. Going up. And that's the lowest. Okay, so when you get to within 1/2, I don't know if any of the cameras are picking this good, I hope so, within 1/2 rotation of the dial, what you try to do here is to tap it, and then when you check again that you're in the middle of your swing. So in my case, my dial, or my needle would have to come back roughly here in the dial. So let's give that a little try. Should be pretty close. Oops. Went a little too far on that one. Not too bad, actually. Okay, I'm gonna have to reset my dial here just because probably from tapping it's starting to rotate downward slowly. So. Sorry about that, I have to change the batteries here. What I was saying is as long as we keep tapping on the low spot, it'll slowly adjust it. Okay, so this is definitely still a high. Now you have to think too, the tube isn't perfect, all right? So if I can get it within 5 thou, I'm actually very happy. Right now we're at, oh, well actually let's find out. We got the nice, all right, where's my high spot? I'll just do it by, so 62 being the high spot, and yeah, there must be a dip in the tube right there. So I'm at 52, so I'm about 10 thou. So I'll try to split the difference, but I have a feeling that I won't be able to because there's probably an imperfection in the tube somewhere. So we'll try to get it as close as we can, but no promises. This little spot right here is because there's a, I hit it with the grinder a little aggressively up there, so it's kind of hard to tell too, but we're more or less within 3 or 4 thou. Okay, cool. So now at this point, we're going to give it one solid tack. I mean, like probably quarter inch or so. And then we're gonna go completely 90 degree to it and check and see how far off we are. Basically, once we've tacked all 4 corners, and then we can still spin. Once the 4th tack is in there, there's no more movement, that's it, right? So we gotta make sure that we get it, we keep it as good as this after the tacks are in. So we'll get the welder set up. Well guys, that's all the time we got for this week, unfortunately. Got to go back to work and make some of that bread so I can afford working on this stuff, right? So I really hope you enjoyed watching me work on this. I was gonna say working on this with me, but take it the way you want, really. So yeah, it gets a little daunting when you start playing that whole driveshaft game and all that, but honestly, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Just give it a try. The worst that'll happen is that you'll just take the driveshaft off again and then get it balanced if you have the capabilities to wherever you are, right? So yeah, honestly, if you find something worth leaving a comment, a little friendly reminder to comment, like, share, subscribe. Your man Porter here signing out, and I think I have something for you for next week, but I don't know. I'd have to think, what could I possibly do? Oh Lord.